And this is a post from Elliot about cargo. I didn't see that. I didn't even know about this. I was just notified by my stream that he made a comment. I think this is probably in the feedback thread. He says, hello, everyone. Me and the economy team have been reading your feedback on the payment of these missions, so I'm here to ask some questions and get some info that might help us balance these a little bit more accurately. The numbers I'm going to ask are for ones we tested internally and got a rough time for. We knew that we were always going to be off by some order of magnitude, and we want to rely more on the player data. So as I mentioned, we have been collating your feedback and making some plans. So I'd like to provide you with the following information. Choose a singular hauling mission and only have that one accepted. Use r.displayinfo2 that provides us the mission record name, the ship you are doing this in, the pickup and drop-off locations, the total SCU per location, the number of runs you have to do to complete the mission in that ship, the number of friends you had helping you. From accepting the contract, please time the following steps you take and how long it takes. Time from the moment you accept the mission to using the freight elevator in your hangar to call up the mission cargo, time to call, time to load, time to request takeoff, time it takes to get to the drop-off location, times it takes to land in the hangar, time to unload the cargo to finish the mission. If you do encounter any bugs, please just note them in a footnote and how much time it extended by. Edit. One thing of note is all of the missions are due a rebalance. We are currently having 2 worlds of mission rewards. Missions that have been balanced more in line with the future of the game, and missions that are still old hyperinflated balance. So we're taking into account that currently comparing these missions versus existing ones are very difficult to compare, and this is something the economy team is working on and will balance gradually and take some time between these to analyze the effects in the game before doing another pass. I just talked about this with my stream a little while ago. I just think that they should double the lower value missions and then double the time it takes to get between each rep reward. So it's very easy to get out of the first rep. It's very easy to get out of the second rep, and then it gets a little bit harder as it goes. But the problem with that is when you get to, I think it's member, all of a sudden it's like 500 SCU missions, 660 SCU missions, and things like that, and you might just be flying a Nomad. So I don't necessarily think the goal here is to exclusively progress through these cargo missions. I've said this a number of times. I believe that the cargo missions are meant to, well, actually, Elliot said it himself, and I've kind of parroted what he said. Missions are meant to tell a story of the game. So I know that raw ore is coming from the Hurston Moons and typically being brought to Everus Harbor, right? That's something that happens quite regularly. So that's something. Cargo balance is not done. Cargo career mission balance is clearly not done. So whoever said that, I don't know what they're talking about. Because it doesn't make any sense. I remember that was a post from some dev. It certainly wasn't Elliot, and it certainly wasn't from anybody in the economy team. So I don't know why they're talking. But the idea here is that there's 2 sides to this story, and they're starting to ignore one of the sides for some reason, which is you got your hauling missions and you got your actual commodity hauling. If you look at the game right now, it's hard to recognize any commodity hauling options. They almost don't exist. So I'm trying to, that's kind of going to be my goal going forward here, is seeing if anything on the commodity trading front exists, but it doesn't seem that way. But my thought process here is that early game, you're in some small ships, right? And you are able, in case nobody is aware, you are able to rent, I think, a freelancer possibly, but definitely a Connie, not Taurus, but Connie Andromeda. So you are able to rent a ship with around 100 SCU of cargo. And yeah, it eats into your profits a little bit, but you're going to be able to chain a bunch of missions together, and it's going to work out pretty well for you. Okay? So you are going to be able to progress from having an Aurora to something larger. It's going to take you forever, but you're going to be able to do it if you maybe rent another ship or something like that, right? I do not think anybody should be running cargo missions in an Aurora. Probably the smallest ship would be the Nomad. That would make any sense at all. Now, if you take the Nomad and you go through and you do the missions that the Nomad can do, it would literally take you 800 or 1,000 missions to get to buy a freelancer, which it just has 40 more SCU of cargo, right? It's kind of crazy. Connie Andromeda costs 200K a day to rent. You could do that. You could make 200K a day, but that's a lot. Yeah. You could do that if you have no life, right? And the thing that I think that these guys aren't quite getting is that 90% of their player base, like, what's the average play session here, though? Right? It's probably a couple hours. So when they tally all this, right? When they tally up all this time to do these missions, how many missions do they get done? And how much do they get paid? It's going to be like 100K. You know what I mean? In a couple hours, probably. And how are you supposed to progress into the next ship? I think early game, it's got to be a little bit faster progression in terms of money making, so you can get a larger ship, just a little bit larger. And we're not talking about the biggest stuff. I think the progression needs to lean heavier in the early game on money and less on rep gain. So you grind the money. You're grinding money to get a bigger ship. You're not necessarily needing to grind the rep as much in the early game. You can continue to do small missions and chain them together and grind money, but the rep, once you hit maybe level 3 and you're getting the 500 SCU stuff, that's when the rep is, more important to get into bigger missions to make more money, to gain larger ships. But I don't see getting paid 3K existing in this game when ships are costing in the millions. That's my issue here. So it looks like they're kind of hearing what we're saying and going, yeah, man, the amount of time it takes to do these missions is much longer than we anticipated. I had Elliot in my chat yesterday saying that they believed it took about 27 seconds per box to load. And I think the kind of reason that this post came out, and specifically the reason he said choose a singular hauling mission is I was chaining. So it was really hard for him to gather information based off of the fact that I was chaining. And because I spent more time in the Moby-Glass trying to find chaining missions than I was doing the missions themselves. But he said it was about 27 seconds. I think it's a little bit more than that. It's probably more than a little bit more than that if you count now going in and looking at, how, actually all these times here, it's pretty significant. So, this is omega positive that they're going, yeah, we knew we would be off, even though they defended it hard in multiple episodes of SCL, that they liked what they had. I'm glad they're coming out and saying, hey, this was, we're off, and we want to get some data from you guys, and we're gonna make this right. Okay? Are they gonna get it right? No. Nobody's ever gonna get it right because it's always gonna be, going up and down and in and out. They did say that none of these prices were final, but they were happy with them, right? So here's the not final part of it. It's never going to get right. It's always going to be balanced. And they are, to me, they're asking the right questions and they're getting the data they need to do the right thing. The only thing that I think that they're missing here is what is progression through the cargo hauling career? And I think it is, we need to get players from small ships early into medium cargo haulers relatively quickly, because that is where they're going to grind. They're going to sit in that medium cargo hauler range, which would be your probably freelancer max, whatever the Zeus, that's like in the 100 SU, that 120 SU of cargo range, right? That's where they're going to sit, and you're going to grind there, and you're going to enjoy it because you're going to be putting a bunch of missions together. You're going to be moving a lot of boxes. It's going to be the things that people want to do. They're going to do a lot of that. And they're going to enjoy themselves doing a lot of that, most likely. I think I would, at least. This is just what I'm speaking for myself here, obviously. That's where I think the grind is. The grind can't be early. The grind cannot be early. You got to get out of your Nomad. You got to get out of what are some of the other smaller ones? Hull A, sadly, you got to get out of that pretty quickly, right? Those kind of things we got to move away from. Reliant is not. Drake Cutter is not, right? Those are not cargo hauling ships. Because they hold cargo does not mean they're cargo hauling ships. Maybe a Hull A is medium, but it is definitely the low end of the medium. C1 is the low end of the medium, right? Or C1 is probably an A Hull A, or probably the high end of the small. I think the 100 SCU range is where people need to be. Your MSR, yes. Your Freelancer Max, your Constellations. Starfarer is not a ship. Like, it's not a ship I think anyone should be paying attention to. But it is 500 SCU of cargo. Unfortunately, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. You know, it's a mess. That ship's a mess. I want it to be something great, but it's not. So that's how I see it, is let's get the money going to players early. Let's get them out of those small ships into those medium ships. And then let's start the grind to the... So I think the payment or the cost, I think the payment should go up a little bit, maybe double it even. I think the cost for your Freelancer, for your C1, for your Hull A, for your Freelancer Max, for your Zeus, those costs for those ships in game should be relatively affordable, because they're like your Honda Civic or your box truck or something like that. Things that you see a lot of, and they're achievable for small businesses. And then you have your huge ships that are not achievable for small businesses and are done by huge conglomerates, orgs, things like that, right? They already are. C1 is 3 million. How many 8,000 credit missions do I have to do to make 3 million credits? How many? You cannot say they're affordable, because they're not. Right? They're not. 375 missions. There you go. And guess what? There are very few 8,000 credit missions. So that's a problem when you count how much time it takes to do a mission. And I think they realize this. Okay? But that's why I'm saying, let's get us out of the Nomads and let's get us into the Freelancer Maxes and those type of ships. And that's where you grind, man. That's where you grind, and it'll be a lot of fun. I think that'll be a lot of fun, because then you have this reach of the Caterpillar, of the C2, of the Hull C, that maybe you work together with your friends for those ships. You should not be working together for your friends for a freelancer. Let's be real here, right? And I think if they kind of get that down, I think that it'll be in a really good place, because yeah, you want to get your players feeling good in the beginning. All right, I'm making progress. All right, I'm making progress. And then you want that middle to be enjoyable but grindy. And then you want to get to that end where you need people to work with to, hey, I need you on the tractor beams. We're working together. We're moving, hundreds of SCU, thousands in the Hull C. And then it's a group thing. So we pool our money for that stuff. Nobody should be pooling their money for a Freelancer Max. Nobody should. I know it's not a solo ship, but it probably should be, right? So, I don't know. I don't know, guys, but that's just how I feel about it. I feel like when I was looking for, hey, what's my daily driver going to be with these missions? First thought was Nomad. Bam. Love it. But I instantly progressed through the reputation to get to 60 SCU missions. And then the Nomad was like, well, I can't use the Nomad then. But I can't afford anything else quickly enough to enjoy myself. So, you got to think about what a new player experience would be. And a new player is coming in with no SCU. So, it's a weird situation. I know we talked about this for a while, but and I don't know how much more I need to say or what needs to be said, because honestly, nothing needs to be said. They need to take this data and do the right thing for them, whatever they think the right thing is. But they're recognizing that their data might have been a little bit incomplete. Now that we're in there, they're rocking and rolling. We're rocking and rolling, and they're like, damn, it's taking these people a long time to do these missions. Maybe we should pay them more. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this myself today on stream. I'm pulling out the Raft. I think the Raft is like one of the best, going to be one of those go-to middle ground ships, those daily drivers, right in that sweet spot of grind before you get to the Caterpillar, before you get to the Hull Seas, and so on. So that's what I'm doing today. I think we're in good hands because the right questions are being asked, the right things are being done, but I think we're not in good hands necessarily with the freight elevator and the hangars. Well, we probably are, but we're not in a good situation with those, right? I think Chad's the man. He's a really good guy and all that stuff. I feel like we're shitting on Chad here a little bit, but that's not the intention. It's the missions themselves outside of the payouts have not felt bad. It's the experience of the hangar and the freight elevators that have really been the problem with these missions. So that's cargo hauling. And without commodities coming into play, the payouts for cargo hauling's got to be better.